welcome back. So I want to tell you a story about a little boy named Ben. And Ben is 3 years old and he has brain cancer. And even though today he's in remission and playing like a normal little boy, his father is really struggling and he's sad and he finds it hard to find joy in those everyday moments because he knows it won't be long before Ben dies. And as Ben grapples with this emotional journey, he finally discovers the courage and the resolve to enjoy every single minute that he has left with Ben today, because that's how he can really be there for him. It's a story that touches all of us, the child who falls victim to an unfair world and a father who's helpless to stop the inevitable ultimately becomes the hero as he finds the courage to change himself for the better. The hero's journey story describes more than half of the movies that come out of Hollywood, and it's the basic structure of the majority of the most watched TED Talks. Turns out there are two key aspects to a really effective story. First, it must capture and hold the attention of our audience, and second, it must connect with them on an emotional level. And Ben's story does both. It turns out that there's neuroscience to explain why that's so effective. You see, Ben's story is part of a study conducted by Paul Zak, who is the author of The Moral Molecule and Trust Factor. And his research is uncovering how stories actually change our brains and compel us to be more empathic and generous. And Zak and his team shared this story with participants in his lab, and then they examined exactly what was going on in their brains. They found out that two primary emotions were elicited, and each of them generated a very specific neurochemical response. And the first was distress. The participants felt distressed, and they produced an increase in cortisol. The more distress they felt, the more cortisol they produced. The more cortisol we produce, the more we focus on whatever it is that's causing the distress, because it's the brain's way of saying, pay attention, this might really be important. The second is empathy, and empathy produced an increase in oxytocin. The more oxytocin a person produces, the more empathic he or she feels. And oxytocin is often called the love hormone or the cuddle drug, but Zak calls it the moral molecule because oxytocin is what makes us sensitive to the social cues around us. And these social cues motivate us to help others, to be kind, or to extend generosity, or to just demonstrate more altruistic behavior. The second part of the experiment measured this. Zak's team gave people the opportunity to donate money to a stranger or to a children's charity. And they found the amount of oxytocin and cortisol that the participant produced predicted how much money he or she would share. The more oxytocin and cortisol, the more money they would donate. Learn more about how storytelling changes the brain in my most recent blog post. Also, what stories are you sharing that influence how people perceive and connect with you? If you dig this just a little bit, then I encourage you to check out Sarah Elkin's book, Your Stories Don't Define You, How You Tell Them Will. Sarah takes you on a journey to discover the internal messages that may be holding you back and teach you how to create impactful stories that enable authentic connections with others. Look, stories are so powerful. They can move us and connect us. They can inspire us to be generous or more kind to other people. And now you know they can also change your brain. If you want to learn more about how the brain works and how to make it work better, check out my book, Happier Hour with Einstein, and the full-color companion gratitude journal, available now on Amazon. And if you enjoyed this Neuro Nugget, pass it on to someone in your corner of the world, because life is always better when we share the good stuff.